And it's a song about the Scottish islands called the Hebrides. And I've not been to the Hebrides, but I feel I know them through music. And there's a musician who's now deceased. He died when he was very young. His name is Martin Bennett. And I read this, it's not quite a memoir, it's a collection of stories written by his mother, compiled by his mother, upon his passing in 2005. This is the book. And his mother's name is Margaret Bennett. And it would not be unfair to say that Margaret Bennett is the Peggy Seeger of Scotland. She's a folklorist, she's a singer, she's an author, she's a transcriptionist, an historian. She's still alive. Martin Bennett was her only child. Martin Bennett was a prodigy musically. He started on the pipes, the classical Scottish pipes, but quickly picked up violin, fiddle, viola, piano, whistle, learned classical music, European classical music by the time he was 12. And then when he was a teenager, he started to combine traditional Scottish music, primarily the pipes and fiddle, with what was at the time the techno scene in Glasgow and Edinburgh. And he was bringing the traditional music to people his age in a club setting. And that's what he became most known for through his recordings. He was a masterful musician and apparently an amazing individual. I read this memoir when it came out about 12 years ago, now 13 years ago, and I just reread it again, and I wrote this song for Martin and the influence he's had on my appreciation of Scotland. He lived most of his life in the Inner Hebrides, but also went to school in Glasgow and Edinburgh. This is called From the Highlands to the Islands. And I threw in a little bit of Gaelic. I don't speak Gaelic, so I'll have to translate a little bit here. Matin va means good morning in Scottish Gaelic. Slanja, you might know, which is cheers or here's to you kind of thing. And Fesker ma means a good evening. Fesker ma to ye, good evening to you all. And finally, Alba, A-L-B-A, is the Gaelic spelling of Scotland. So those are the Gaelic words in this song, From the Highlands to the Islands. I've been working on the song a little bit, so I want to play it again in a different key, one that I can actually hit the notes, I think, which is nice. And slightly different picking pattern. But it's the same song, largely, with a couple of Gaelic terms thrown in there. This is called From the Highlands to the Islands. Matin van slancha all, we heed the distant piper's call that pulls us toward the Hebrides, their rocky shores, their foaming seas. In Edinburgh and Glasgow towns, we prolled the cobbles up and down. Last Feskerma then to the Highlands, where the music beckoned from the islands. From the Highlands to the islands, with Martin as our guide. The islands pull on the highlands like the moon tugs on the tide. Martin Bennett, son of Margaret, left us all at 33. But he lived one long song without regret, then took a closer walk with thee. Oh, the pipes, the fiddle, the elbow whistle, Martin mastered every form. He loved his land from rose to thistle, jaws would drop when he'd perform. From the Highlands to the islands, with Martin as our guide. The islands pull on the highlands like the moon tugs on the tide. We deign to know the painter through the wonder of her art. Sometimes the poet's finest work cuts straight unto the heart. And I know Martin Bennett through the remembrance of his peers, and in the magic of his music that still brings me full to tears. From the highlands to the islands, with Martin as our guide. The islands pull on the highlands like the moon tugs on the tide. Yeah, the islands pull on the highlands like the moon tugs on the tide. Martin van Slancha, all. Hey, so I recently completed another song about the Hebrides portion of Scotland. So Dave Mason can help keep us honest here with the geography, I suppose. There's no Gaelic phrases in this one, but there are a few words or slang terms that are English words, but they're primarily used in Scotland. They include bairn, which is a child, usually a very small child. My bonnie, you've heard that from My Bonnie Lies Over the Ocean, more of a generic female term of endearment. Another is Joe, J-O, where you drop the Y. It's originated with joy. Someone is my Joe, my joy, is my sweetheart. And that could be used for men or women. So my Joe is in this song. It happens on the Outer Hebrides island of Lewis. There's a little bit of a reference to a potential ferry down south to the Isle of Skye. And this happens in the sunny long ago. The name of the song is Believe You Me. My Bonnie's not over the ocean. My Bonnie lies under the sea. Never again will I see her where the bairn she had carried for me. We met at the Stornoway hiring fair, me a fine shepherd with letters of proof, she a widowed spinner with raven black hair. We signed with the croft and lived under its roof. By the light of day I saw her not at all. Under cover of dark I saw her plenty. We lay together under the standing stones. Her belly swelled when she turned 20. Believe you me, she was my Bonnie, I was her Joe. Believe you me, she took my heart when she had to go. While I was away with my flock, she felt the child quicken. So she stopped her spinning to slacken her labor. The midwife on Lewis was suddenly stricken. So she left for the ferry with the help of a neighbor. The doctor on Skye confirmed in a message that he was ready to help her deliver our bairn. But the matter at hand was the passage. The ferry landing well marked with a cairn. Believe you me, she was my Bonnie, I was her Joe. Believe you me, I had no notion that she'd had to go. She was the last person to board the last ferry, which at midnight launched its sail into the spray. 2 score of cattle that we both did carry on the crossing that should take 1/2 of a day. But the beasts on the boat kicked over a torchlight, stampeded from starboard to port as their panic did rise. There was nothing to fear from a small flame on a wet night, but everything to fear from a capsize. Believe you me, she was my bunny, I was her Joe. Believe you me, that into the cold sea she had to go. All hands and hooves were lost, but for a young boy who awoke in a raft he could not recall boarding. My body might bear the song of my heart's joy, live only now in memories I'm hoarding. Me man, me da, well they never met her, though they dearly wished to have seen us wed. They know I took care of this boy for his better, from the letter I posted when she was dead. Believe you me, she was my bunny, she was my Joe. Believe you me, she left me this boy when she had to go. My Bonnie's not over the ocean, no. My Bonnie lives under the sea. Never again shall I see her, or the bairn she had carried for me. All right, that was Believe You Me. Another part of my Outer Hebrides fetish right now. This is a song I wrote after visiting London for the second time, I guess. But it's not really about London, it's more aspirational, so maybe it goes hand in hand. It's called Men and Mountains. Great things are done when men and mountains meet. This is not done by jostling in the street. That's what William Blake observed as his eternal muse was served. That great things are done when men and mountains meet. Well, there are precious new mountains you can see from London town. The Thames cuts through the center of that level ground. So what do you think he meant when he said that momentous things would come to a head, and that great things are done when men and mountains meet? Maybe your highest mountain is found where the ship of your ambition has again run aground, or in the gathering of the enemy army in the valley below. Or your mountain could be the fear you never could face, that thing that always seems to scratch you from the race, as you feel the underutilized potential inside of you grow. Pull out your climbing gear and engage that daunting peak. Oh, the gauntlet's been thrown, the challenge is what you seek. Your time is now, there's no need to wait. Life slips through your fingers while you hesitate. And great things are done when man and mountains meet. Yes, great things are done when man and mountains meet. It's not the mountain ahead that wears you down. No, it's the grain of sand in your shoe that you haul around.
Well
All
done,
right, Men and Mountains.
About the Civilian Conservation Corps, CCC boys, and again, I got a good reason to play it tonight. I was down in the basement of my house where I had collected a bunch of stuff from my parents' house and just sort of thrown it in a corner, and it's about time to start sorting out some of this stuff. And even though I knew a lot about my dad's CCC days and met a bunch of his CCC buddies, and he used to volunteer at a CCC museum and in Florida, and so I was sort of steeped in all this stuff, but I never I wasn't quite sure that I ever found the place where he worked in Virginia, the CCC camp he worked in Virginia. And much to my amazement, in this bunch of stuff in an old box from my parents' house, I found an identity card that said that he took first aid class from the CCC camp at, what was it called? Hot Springs, Virginia. So now I know where his camp was. He was in Hot Springs, Virginia. And my brother, I told my brother about it, he got all excited. He sent me like a big page of links of stuff about Virginia CCC and the Hot Springs camp and all that sort of stuff. So now I've got even more research to do about the CCC. When the forests of the garden were lumbered and left to burn, farmland and stream heading for trouble as the century turned. The market crashed in 29, there was no work for many, a dust cloud settling down on the once proud land of plenty. There were hobo boys in jungles, teens out on the street, young men on the farm, even there they couldn't make ends meet. So when FDR was elected right away, he made a plan. He said, let's put those boys to work. Let's restore our land. It was here's to the CCC, planting trees and more. Cheers to the CCC, the Civilian Conservation Corps. 250,000 enrollees in just a few months' time. From 33 to 42, there was 3.5 million, all in Roosevelt's Tree Army, Soil Soldiers, CCC. They restored the woods and restored their lives. That's their history. With axe and hoe and shovel, they leaned into their task. Fire trails, riverbanks, campsites, all that they were asked. California to Maine, Skyline Drive to Yellowstone. They made $30 a month, and all but 5 went home. 3 billion seedlings with mattock, axe, and maul. The message was think ahead, and what they did'll outlive us all. So here's to the CCC, planting trees and more. Cheers to the CCC, the Civilian Conservation Corps. And my dad was a CCC boy, as he so loved to be called. He went from home near Pittsburgh to Virginia's Front Royal, and then he got a job in Detroit, and then he served in World War II. Said after being in the seas, there was no work he could not do. I met those CCC boys at reunions at Higgins Lake. They've slow to step, but they were quick of mind, a firm hand to shake. To a man, they've got great stories. It's not just trees they grew themselves. They want that choice for the next generation too. Singing here's to the CCC, planting trees and more. Cheers to the CCC, the Civilian Conservation Corps. They were learning on the job, and they leaned into their task. Called it the College of Calluses. They did all they were asked. California to Maine, Skyline Drive to Yellowstone. They made $30 a month, and all but 5 went home. 3 billion seedlings with Matic, axe, and maul. The message was think ahead, and what they did will outlive us all. So here's to the CCC, planting trees and more. Cheers to the CCC, the Civilian Conservation Corps. That's my song for the CCC, boys. You can sing it in a national park. You can sing it in a state forest, on a morning hike or at dark. Sing it once in gratitude for the men of my father's age, and sing it twice for the youngsters inspired by history's page. Here's to the CCC, planting trees and more. Cheers to the CCC. Cheers to the CCC. Cheers to the CCC. Oh, those good old dudes. Almost none of them left around anymore, as far as I know. Called Wear and Tear, and it's about a guy who's a truck driver. And I thought about the song this week because there's a Facebook page called Ann Arbor Townies. So people who have lived in Ann Arbor town for a really long time. Many of them are people who have lived in Ann Arbor since childhood, and sometimes the call goes out like, tell me your favorite third grade teacher in Ann Arbor Public Schools. And I got no interest in that. I got no history in that. I didn't get here till graduate school. But recently, the call for contributions was, what was your first paying job in Ann Arbor? And I thought, so I contributed. My first paying job was I drove a lumber truck on the north end of downtown. There's where the train tracks are. There's a lumber yard, and guy needed a summer replacement driver. So I drove this truck all over lower Michigan and occasionally sometimes in further north in Michigan, delivering lumber. And it was a great, fun job. And so I've always had this feeling of like, well, for that brief shining moment, I was a truck driver. So I figured I got to have a truck driving song. I'm a working guy and I'm hauling another load. I left my diesel running and I stopped along the road. I'm minding my own business, I enjoy a little break. I soak a little sunshine and I figure out my take. Some of us haul lumber, some of us haul food. Guys hauling gasoline, everyone's a crazy, crazy dude. But me, I haul anything, it's not like I really care. I'm just glad to still do it after all of the wear and tear. Wear and tear, wear and tear, you cannot get from here to there without a little wear and tear. It isn't always fair, can't always be repaired, no. Wear and tear, wear and tear, there is always wear and tear. Now when I think alone at midnight in the cab or a coffee bar, I sketch out all the angles I wish on every star. Oh, I think back on my 20s in the cold Great Lakes air with a plastic tarp and a sleeping bag, and not a thought about the wear and tear. Wear and tear, wear and tear, you cannot get from here to there without a little wear and tear. It isn't always fair, can't always be repaired, no. Wear and tear, wear and tear, there is always wear and tear. Now my politics are union, I am plenty left of center, and I don't know much about heaven except the rich are not likely to enter. But everybody's eligible, I'd give us all a free pass, except for a few dispatchers who are a pain in God's royal ass. They're the wear and tear, the wear and tear, you cannot get from here to there without a little wear and tear. It isn't always fair, can't always be repaired, no. Wear and tear, wear and tear, there is always wear